Welcome to your heartfelt revenge story. Me name is Nora Callahan. I am 29 years old. In 3 days, my grandfather spent 3 days crying my name from a hospital bed while my own father stood outside his door and told every nurse, every doctor, every family member who walked past the same 5 words. She is not welcome here. When I finally showed up, because a stranger called me from a number I did not recognize, my father blocked the doorway with his body and said something I will never, not for the rest of my life, unhear. He wants to say goodbye to real family. But a nurse named Peggy grabbed my arm, pulled me through a side entrance and handed me a phone. She whispered, "Your grandfather has been asking for you for 3 days. Your father blocked every call. He told me to give you this." What I heard on that recording made me dial 911 before my grandfather even closed his eyes. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. Now let me take you back. 5 days before that hospital corridor. 5 days before everything broke open. I am walking home from Maplewood Senior Living at 3 in the morning. 12-hour night shift. My scrubs smell like antiseptic and the lavender lotion Mrs. Patterson insists I rub on her hands before lights out every single night without exception. My car has been dead for 2 weeks. Alternator. Parts backordered from a warehouse somewhere in Indiana. So I walk 22 minutes door to door through the quietest streets in Harlow, Ohio. I let myself into Grandpa's house. His house. The one he built with his own hands in 1981. Oak floors he sanded by hand. Windowsills he carved little grooves into so I could line up my potted rosemary when I was 9 years old. The place still smells like sawdust and coffee, even though he has not been home in 5 days. I am pulling off my shoes when my phone buzzes. Unknown number. Area code 740. Local. I almost let it go. 3 in the morning calls from numbers you do not know are never good news. And I have had enough bad news this year to last me a lifetime. But some quiet pull in my chest makes me answer. Is this Nora Callahan? A woman's voice. Older. Tight, like she was keeping herself together through sheer force of will. Who is this? My name is Peggy. I am a nurse at Memorial. Your grandfather. Honey, you need to come here right now. My stomach dropped. My grandfather. I called my father yesterday. He told me Grandpa was sleeping. He said everything was stable. She cut me off. Your grandfather is not stable. And the person who told you that. She paused. I heard her exhale slowly. He is not stable either. The line clicked dead. I stood in the middle of my grandfather's living room at 3 in the morning. No car, no answers, and a feeling in my chest like someone had rearranged every piece of furniture in the dark while I was not looking. Peggy called from a personal number. Not the hospital's. I know because I have Memorial's number saved. I have called it 11 times this week. Every single time the front desk told me the same thing. Mr. Callahan's emergency contact has restricted visitor access. His emergency contact. My father. I should tell you about this house. About how I ended up in it. My mother died when I was 7. Car accident on Route 33 during an ice storm. One moment I had a mom who braided my hair and sang off-key in the shower and made everything feel safe. The next moment I had a casket and a father who could not look at me without flinching, because everyone said I had her eyes. Dad was not ready. That is what Grandpa told me gently, the night he carried my suitcase into the spare bedroom and said, "This is yours now." I was 7 years old and I believed him completely. 19 years later, this room still has my name on the door. Penciled in Grandpa's handwriting. 2 years after Mom died, Dad met Sandra. They married fast and moved 2 hours south. Phone calls got shorter. Visits got rarer. Then they just stopped altogether. Grandpa never said a bad word about my father, not once in all those years. The closest he ever came was one evening on the porch when I was maybe 15, angry and hurt, asking why Dad never showed up for my birthday. Grandpa set down his coffee and said, "Your dad has his reasons. But you have got me, kiddo. That is enough." And it was. Really was. He woke up at 5 every morning to make me breakfast before school. Oatmeal with brown sugar every single day, 12 years without fail. He taught me to fix a leaky faucet, change a tire, read a blueprint. When I said I wanted to be a nurse, he drove me 40 minutes each way to the LPN program and waited in the parking lot every single time doing crossword puzzles. For months ago, the cough that would not quit turned into a diagnosis. Stage 4. Lung cancer. I rearranged my shifts to be with him. We had a system. Then Daniel came back. In his nightstand, the same drawer where he keeps his reading glasses and a photo of my mother, Grandpa had an old flip phone. Silver scratched. In case the power goes out, he told me once. I never thought twice about it. I should have. I called a rideshare. The app spun and spun. 3 in the morning in a town of 9,000 people. Nobody was driving. I called Annie. She is a CNA on my shift, drives a Corolla that smells like pine air freshener and menthol cigarettes. She picked up my slack last Tuesday when Mrs. Patterson had a fall. I hate asking for favors, but right now I hate standing still more. Annie, I need a ride to Memorial. Girl, I just got on the highway going the other direction. I know. I am sorry. I would not ask if. Give me 15 minutes. While I waited, I did what I have been doing for 3 months. Every time I have a question about my grandfather, I call my father. Ring, ring, ring. Voicemail. 3rd time. 4th time. He picked up. Nora. His voice was flat. Not sleepy. Controlled. It is 3 in the morning. A nurse from Memorial just called me. She said I need to come. What nurse? She said her name was Peggy. Silence. Then his voice shifted. Harder. Nobody was supposed to call you. I am the primary contact. I manage communication. That has been established. I was standing in Grandpa's kitchen gripping the counter with both hands. Dad. Is Grandpa okay? He is sleeping. He is fine. Go to bed, Nora. Then why did a nurse call me at 3 in the morning? I said go to bed. He hung up. I stared at the phone. Annie honked outside. In the car, Annie glanced over at me. What is going on? I do not know yet. But I know that voice. That is my father's voice when he is hiding something. Annie drove faster. The lights of Memorial Regional appeared at the end of the road, glowing against the dark like a question I was not sure I was ready to answer. Now I need to pause here for just a second, because standing in that kitchen at 3 in the morning holding a dead phone in my hands, I want you to understand something. I am not a dramatic person. I do not make speeches. I do not do confrontation for sport. I go to work. I come home. I check on my grandfather. That has always been my whole life. But there is a difference between being quiet and being weak. My father was about to learn that difference. Stay with me, because what was on that flip phone is something that changed everything. And you are not ready for what happens next. The hospital corridor at 3:40 in the morning is a strange kind of quiet. Not peaceful. Just emptied out. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Somewhere down the hall, a machine beeping in slow rhythm. Room 412. I saw it before I reached it. My father was standing in the doorway. Arms crossed, dress shirt untucked, sleeves rolled. Sandra sat in a plastic chair beside him, holding a paper cup of coffee like it was a prop in a play she had been rehearsing for weeks. Daniel saw me coming. His eyes scanned me slowly. Wrinkled scrubs. Messy ponytail. Dark circles. He did not move. What are you doing here? I am here to see my grandfather. He tilted his head. The way you look at a dog that wandered into the wrong yard. He doesn't want to see you, Nora. He wants to say goodbye to real family. The words landed before I could brace for them. Not because I believed them. I did not. But because my own father just told me I was not family in a hospital hallway while my grandfather was dying on the other side of that door. Sandra shifted in her chair. Honey, don't make this harder. He's very weak. I stepped forward. Daniel put his hand on the door frame. I told the hospital you are not allowed in. You are not on the list. A night nurse approached, clipboard in hand, looking confused. Daniel turned to her with this practiced ease, this warm, reasonable voice. She's not on the approved visitor list. I'm the primary contact. Check the file. The nurse checked. Looked at me. Looked at Daniel. I am sorry, ma'am. She is not listed. I stood in the hallway. Through the door I could hear the monitor. Steady, mechanical, alive. My grandfather was 10 feet from me and I could not get to him. I backed away from the door. My hands were shaking but not from cold. I leaned against the wall and stared at the ceiling tiles, trying to breathe, trying to think clearly. I had not come here to cause a scene. I came because a woman I had never met told me my grandfather needed me. A hand touched my shoulder. I turned. She was about 55. Silver hair pinned in a tight bun. RN badge clipped to blue scrubs. Her eyes were the kind of serious that comes from decades of seeing things most people only ever imagine. Come with me. Don't say anything. I followed. She walked fast through a side corridor, past a supply closet, around a corner I did not know existed. We stopped at another door. Same room 412 but from the opposite side. She faced me. 3 days, she said quietly. 3 days your grandfather has been calling your name. His blood pressure spikes every single time that man walks in. It drops back to normal the minute he leaves. My dad told me Grandpa did not want to see me. Peggy looked at me the way I look at families when I have to deliver hard news at Maplewood. Steady. Direct. No room for softness. Your grandfather cries every night because he thinks you abandoned him. Something cracked open inside my chest. Wide open. I have been a nurse for 20 years, she said. I know what fear looks like on a patient's face. And your grandfather is afraid. Not of dying. Of that man. She put her hand on the door handle. Ready? I nodded. She opened the door. He looked smaller. That was the first thing I noticed. 2 weeks ago, the last time I saw him, before Daniel took over, before the visitor list got locked, before the phone call stopped connecting, Grandpa was thin but present. Sitting up. Making dry jokes about the hospital food. Complaining that the television only had 4 channels. Now he was a sketch of himself. Oxygen tube under his nose. For in his left hand, the hand that used to grip a hammer like it was part of his body, his eyes opened. Red-rimmed. Wet. He saw me. And his mouth trembled. Not a smile. Something before a smile. Like the ground shifting before rain. Nora. His voice was sandpaper and broken glass. I was beside him in 2 steps. I took his hand. It was so light. I am here, Grandpa. You came. His fingers closed around mine. No strength left in them but all the intention in the world. I thought you did not want. He said you were busy. He said you said, his chin shook, you said you did not need me anymore. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. 3 days. My grandfather had lain in that bed for 3 days believing I had abandoned him. Because my father told him I had. And told me he was sleeping. Grandpa. I called every day. I called the hospital. I called Dad. They told me you were resting. They told me not to come. He closed his eyes. A tear ran down the side of his face into the pillow. Then he opened his eyes again and they were different. Sharper. The way they used to look when he was measuring something, making sure every angle was exactly right. Listen to me. I don't have a lot of time left. He glanced toward the nightstand. Peggy stepped forward. She opened the drawer and pulled out the old flip phone. The silver scratched one I had seen sitting in that drawer for years. Your grandfather asked me to hold this 3 days ago, she said. Right after Daniel took his regular phone and deleted every contact. I looked at Grandpa. Press play, he said. I recorded everything. I opened the phone. The voice memo app. Basic. Just a red circle and a list. 7 files. The first one was dated 5 days ago. I pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the room. Clear. Unmistakable. Listen to me, old man. You're going to sign this paper or I will move you to the cheapest nursing home in this county. The kind of place where nobody visits. The kind of place where you die alone. Then Grandpa's voice shaking. That is my house. I built that house. Daniel cutting in. You built it 40 years ago. Now you're lying here. Who do you think you're saving it for? For that girl. She's not even a pause. He catches himself. She shouldn't get any of it. I stopped the recording. My hand was trembling against the phone. He almost said it. She is not even my own father, standing over a dying man's bed, had nearly said out loud what he had apparently thought all along. That I was not his. I looked at Grandpa. His eyes were steady on mine. There are 6 more, he said. Listen to all of them. Then do what I cannot do anymore. And I am going to stop right here. Because sitting on the edge of that bed at 4 in the morning, holding that phone, I want to ask you something. If you heard your own parents' voice on a recording threatening the person who raised you, what would your very first move be? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Because what I did in the next 2 hours changed everything. I sat on the edge of Grandpa's bed with the flip phone pressed against my ear, And I listened to my father dismantle an old man's life in 6 recordings. Recording 2. Daniel on speakerphone with Sandra, pacing Grandpa's hospital room like he owned it. Once he signs, we sell the house. Market is good right now. Pay off the mortgage on our place and still have enough to. Sandra's voice tiny through the speaker. What about the girl, Daniel? What about her? Recording 3. Daniel standing over Grandpa's bed. Nora's not coming. I called her. She said she is busy. I hear Grandpa ask, small and broken. She said that? Daniel without missing a beat. Her words, Dad. Not mine. Recording 4. Rustling paper. Daniel's voice impatient. Power of attorney. I handle everything. Medical, financial, the house. Just sign it. I will take care of you. Grandpa. I want to talk to Nora first. Daniel. Nora does not want to talk to you. Recording 5. Grandpa refuses again. Daniel's chair scrapes the floor. You want to die alone in this room? Because I can arrange that. I will walk out that door and I will not come back. Recording 6. This one made my blood go completely cold. Daniel was on the phone with a bank. Using Grandpa's name, his date of birth, his social security number, requesting a transfer. $4,800. Into what he called a shared account. I knew Grandpa did not have a shared account. I knew every number on his file. Recording 7. Daniel talking to a nurse, not Peggy. My niece has some mental health issues. She will agitate the patient. Please do not let her in. I set the phone down. I was sitting on the floor. I did not remember sliding off the bed. Grandpa watched me from above. His face was old and tired and completely steady. I'm sorry you had to hear that, he said. You do not owe me an apology. I looked up at him. What do you need me to do? Protect the house. And protect yourself. He gave me his banking login. I did not ask why he had it memorized by heart. He is the kind of man who memorizes things because he does not trust machines to remember for him. Last year, when the cough was just a cough and the doctor said it was probably nothing, Grandpa added me to his checking account. Just in case I cannot get to the bank myself someday, he said. I signed the paperwork at the kitchen table and forgot all about it. I pulled up the account on my phone. 3 months ago, the balance was $47,000. A lifetime of carpentry work, social security deposits, and a man who never once bought something he did not absolutely need. Current balance. $33,200. $14,000. Gone. Transferred in amounts just under $5,000. The threshold that triggers a bank report. 4 separate transactions over 12 weeks. Each one routed to an account ending in 8841. That was not Grandpa's account. I knew every number on his file. Gets worse. His social security. $1,680 a month. It had not deposited in 2 months. Someone had changed the direct deposit routing. Grandpa, did you change where your social security goes? He shook his head slowly. I asked Daniel why the money stopped coming. He said the bank was having technical problems. I screenshotted everything. Transaction history, routing numbers, dates. Emailed them to myself. Backup. Peggy knocked on the door and leaned in. Sun is almost up. He comes at 8 every morning like clockwork. Always checks the room first. I looked at the clock on the wall. 5:47. 2 hours. I had 2 hours before Daniel walked through that door. I work the way I work at Maplewood when a patient has a crisis at 2 in the morning, and the day nurses will not be in for hours. Systematic. One thing at a time. First, I copied every audio file from the flip phone to my own phone. Then emailed them to myself. 2 backups. If that phone disappeared, the recordings would not disappear with it. Second, I called Adult Protective Services, the county elder abuse hotline. It was 5:50 in the morning. Nobody answered. I left a detailed message. My name, Grandpa's name, the hospital, the situation. Fax only. Voice steady. Third, I called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher was calm and professional. She took everything down. A detective from the elder abuse unit would contact me today. Fourth, I ran through the mental checklist I know from work. At Maplewood, we are mandatory reporters. I have filed 3 elder abuse reports in 6 years. I know the language. I know the process. This time the patient was my grandfather. The abuser was my father. But the steps did not change. Grandpa fell asleep. Really asleep. Not the tense, interrupted sleep Peggy had described from the past 3 days. His hand was still near mine on the blanket. His face had loosened. He looked, for the first time in a week, like the man who used to fall asleep on the porch with a crossword puzzle resting on his chest. I sat beside him and let myself have 30 seconds. Just 30. I thought about oatmeal with brown sugar. About the cherrywood desk he built me when I was 12. About the grooves in the windowsills. The clock read 7:30. I had to leave before Daniel arrived. Not because I was afraid of him, because it was not time yet. Confronting him here with no backup, no process. That was emotion. What I needed was procedure. I squeezed Grandpa's hand. He did not wake. I whispered, "I will be back." Then I walked out of room 412 before my father walked in. Annie and I were in the hospital cafeteria. She bought me a muffin I could not eat and a coffee I drank too fast. My phone rang. "Daniel, you were in his room last night." Not a question. His voice was the voice from the recordings. The one he uses when he is not performing for anyone. "I visited my grandfather." "Yes. Who let you in?" "I am calling hospital administration." "I will sue." "You can sue whoever you want." "I came to see my grandfather." A long breath through his nose. Then his voice dropped. Quiet. Controlled. The voice of a man who is very used to making people feel small. "Listen to me carefully, Nora. You are living in Dad's house. That house is about to not be his anymore. If you want somewhere to sleep next month, I would rethink the way you are behaving." I said nothing. But my phone was recording this call. Ohio is a one-party consent state. I learned that at Maplewood during a training on documenting patient complaints. Daniel took my silence as fear. He kept going. "And don't get any ideas. He's sick. He's confused. He says things. Nobody is going to believe a dying old man rambling in a hospital bed." "I don't need anyone to believe him," I said. "I just need the truth." I hung up. Annie was staring at me across the table, muffin halfway to her mouth. "Was that your dad?" "Yeah. Are you okay?" I took a sip of coffee. Burnt and bitter and exactly right. Better than I have been in 3 months. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from a 740 number. The County Elder Abuse Unit returning my call. Detective Linda Harmon. She could meet me at the hospital this afternoon. The clock was still ticking. But now it was ticking for Daniel. Stay with me. Because the next part is the one that changes everything. What Daniel said in that hospital hallway. What was on the last recording. And the moment I decided I was done staying quiet. It was 2 in the afternoon. I was back on the 3rd floor. This time there was a security guard sitting in a chair near room 412. Young guy. Uncomfortable. Daniel's work. I did not push it. I did not argue. I sat in the waiting area around the corner, close enough to hear voices through the wall. Daniel's voice, muffled but distinct. "Dad, just sign it. I am doing this for you. I will handle everything. The house, the bills, the medical stuff. You will not have to worry about anything." Grandpa's voice thin. "But there. I am not signing." A pause. Then Daniel, sharper. "You want her to have the house? She is nobody, Dad. She is a night shift nurse making $15 an hour. She cannot even keep a car running. Grandpa, she is my grandchild. She is the one who stayed." Silence. Long silence. A chair scraped across the floor. Daniel's voice went cold. The pretense stripped clean away. "Fine. Then you sit here alone because I am done asking nicely." The door opened. Daniel stepped out. He saw me. We looked at each other across 10 feet of hospital linoleum. His jaw was tight. His eyes were wet. But not from crying. From rage. "Don't think you've won anything," he said. "He'll sign or he'll have no one." He walked past me. Sandra followed, heels clicking, not looking at me, not looking at anything. I walked into room 412. Grandpa was lying on his side, facing the window. His eyes were closed. But tears were running across his cheekbone and onto the pillow. I pulled the chair to his bedside. I did not say anything. I just took his hand and sat with him while the afternoon light moved slowly across the floor like something quiet and sure. He did not sign. He held the line. That night I sat at Grandpa's cherrywood desk and opened Facebook for the first time in a week. Daniel's post was the third thing on my feed. Shared 4 hours ago. Blue background, white text. Please keep my father, Harold Callahan, in your prayers. Our family is going through the most difficult season of our lives. We will be hosting a prayer vigil at Grace Community Church this Saturday evening at 7. Dad gave his whole life to this town. He built your porches, fixed your roofs, taught your kids to hold a hammer. Please come support our family. 247 reactions. 83 comments. Daniel, you are such a good son. Harold is so lucky to have you. Your whole family is in our prayers. Not one person mentioned me. Then Mrs. Sutton, Grandpa's next-door neighbor for 30 years. How is Nora doing? Haven't seen her in a while. Daniel's reply. Nora's going through a difficult personal time. We are respecting her space. I read that 3 times. A difficult personal time. He was not just blocking me from the hospital. He was building a story. A version of events where I was unstable, absent, struggling, and he was the devoted son holding everything together. By Saturday night, 150 people would sit in a church and believe it. I set the phone down on the desk. The same desk Grandpa built me from cherrywood when I was 12. Sanded smooth. Stained twice. A little drawer that sticks unless you pull it just right. Saturday was 2 days away. I opened my contacts and found Detective Harmon's number. 2 days. I had 2 days to make sure that when my father stood in front of this town and played the hero, the truth was already on its way. The next morning my phone rang before I finished my coffee. Aunt Carolyn. Grandpa's younger sister. 71. Lives in Columbus, drives a Buick, sends me birthday cards with $10 inside even though I am 29 years old. Nora, sweetheart. Her voice was careful. The kind of careful people use when they have already decided what they think. Daniel called me last night. He said you have been causing some trouble at the hospital. Aunt Carolyn. Daniel will not let me see Grandpa. He took his phone. He deleted. Honey, he said Harold is very fragile right now. He said any excitement could. Grandpa called my name for 3 days. He thought I abandoned him. A pause. I heard her take a breath. But Daniel said he is handling the medical decisions. He said you burst in at 3 in the morning and upset your grandfather. I closed my eyes. Daniel called everyone. Aunt Carolyn, probably Uncle Frank in Dayton, probably the Hendersons, probably every person on our family tree who still answers their phone. And he told them all the same story. Nora is the problem. Daniel is the protector. Aunt Carolyn, I love you. But I cannot solve this inside the family when the family is the problem. Silence on the line. I just think you two should talk it out, she said slowly. Like adults. Like family. We are past that. The call ended. I sat at the kitchen table and understood something with complete clarity. If I stood up right now and told anyone in my family what Daniel was doing, not one single person would believe me. He had already built the wall. Every brick was a phone call I did not know he was making. But I did not need my family to believe me. I needed the county detective. And I would see her in 4 hours. Detective Linda Harmon was not what I expected. Short, mid-50s, reading glasses on a chain around her neck and a handshake that could crack a walnut. 11 years with the Elder Abuse Unit. We met in a small conference room at Memorial. I laid everything out on the table. Not dramatically. Methodically. The way I would present a patient incident report at Maplewood. 7 audio recordings on the flip phone. The call from Daniel this morning where he threatened to take the house. Recorded. Bank screenshots showing $14,000 in unauthorized transfers. 2 months of redirected Social Security deposits. Peggy's observations about Grandpa's blood pressure and documented distress. The hospital's social workers report. Harmon listened to the first recording, then the second. Her face stayed perfectly neutral, but her pen never stopped moving. These recordings are legal, she said. Ohio is one-party consent. Your grandfather was a party to every conversation. They are admissible. She looked at the bank screenshots. The transfers are under $5,000 each. Structured to avoid reporting. That is a pattern we see. I will need a subpoena for the full bank records, but what you have shown me is enough for probable cause. Can I take you to see him? She nodded. In room 412, Grandpa told Detective Harmon everything. His voice shook, but his mind was sharp. He gave dates, amounts, exact words. Harmon recorded his statement. Outside the room she spoke to me directly. I am opening a formal case. Financial exploitation of the elderly and criminal intimidation. She studied me for a moment. Derek is hosting a prayer vigil tomorrow night. What are you planning to do there? I met her eyes. I am just planning to show up. She held my gaze for a long moment. I have seen this pattern before, she said. The charming son who appears at the end. We take it very seriously. That night, alone in Grandpa's house, I prepared. Copied every recording onto a USB drive. Printed the bank screenshots with dates, amounts, and account numbers. Put them in a manila folder. Not because I would need paper in a church, but because having it in my hands made it real. My phone buzzed. A number I had not seen in almost a year. Connor. Connor was 22. Daniel and Sandra's son. My half-brother. We shared a father and a last name and almost nothing else. He grew up hearing I was the favorite. Grandpa's pet. The one who got the house and the love and the attention Daniel felt he was owed. Nora. His voice was quieter than I remembered. Connor, I said. Dad told me you have been causing problems at the hospital. Is that what you called to say? He was quiet for a long time. I heard him breathing. Something is wrong with him, Nora. Not Grandpa. Dad. He has been weird. Angry. Desperate. He needs money. He lost his job 8 months ago. Got fired from the dealership. Something about the sales numbers. Mom did not tell anyone. I closed my eyes. There it was. The missing piece. Daniel had not come back to Harlow because Grandpa was sick. He had come back because he was broke. Do you have proof of anything? Connor asked. Are you coming to the vigil tomorrow? A pause. Yeah, I will be there. Then I will see you tomorrow. I hung up. Sat in the quiet. The folder was on the desk. The USB was in my pocket. The house creaked the way it always creaks. The sound of wood settling. Joints Grandpa cut 45 years ago still holding true. Tomorrow night. 150 people. One microphone. One truth. Stay with me. The vigil is the part you came here for. Grace Community Church is a white clapboard building on the corner of Maple and 3rd. Harold Callahan built the pews in 1994. Sanded every single one by hand. There is a small brass plate on the back row that reads, Donated by Harold Callahan for the community he loved. Saturday. 7 in the evening. The parking lot was full. Trucks, sedans, minivans. Harlow does not have much, but it has this. When someone is hurting, people show up. Inside, about 140 people filled those pews. I saw faces I recognized. Mrs. Sutton from next door. Mr. Pete Garner from the Carpentry Guild. Teachers from my old high school. The woman who runs the bakery on Main. Aunt Carolyn was in the 3rd row, tissue in her hand. Candles lined the windowsills. Warm light. Gentle music from the organ. Pastor Jim Coleman stepped to the pulpit. 63. Silver-haired. Voice like warm gravel. He had known Grandpa for 40 years. Tonight we gather for Harold Callahan. A man who built chairs for this church. Who repaired Mrs. Wilson's roof for free. Who taught a generation of young people in this town the dignity of working with their hands. Then Daniel stood. Navy suit. Red-rimmed eyes. Sandra beside him holding his arm. He walked to the microphone. My father is the greatest man I have ever known. His voice wavered, perfectly calibrated. When he got sick, I dropped everything. I came home because that is what family does. People nodded. A few wiped their eyes. Aunt Carolyn squeezed her tissue. Dad taught me that family stands together. Daniel continued. And tonight family is here. Applause. Soft, warm, sincere. 140 people who believed every single word. The back door of the church opened. Nobody looked yet. But they would. I walked in wearing jeans and a gray sweater. Hair pulled back, manila folder in my left hand, phone in my right. The pew nearest the door creaked as someone turned to look. Then another. Then a ripple of heads turning, whispers spreading like a current through still water. Daniel was still at the microphone. His smile froze. Not gone. Just locked in place the way a screen pauses before it crashes. I walked up the center aisle. Not fast. Not slow. One foot in front of the other, the way Grandpa taught me to walk into any room. Like you have a right to be there. Because you do. Daniel recovered. He leaned into the mic with a warmth that would have fooled anyone who had not heard the recordings. Nora, I'm so glad you could make it. I stopped at the front. I did not look at the audience yet. I looked at Pastor Coleman. Pastor, I would like to say a few words about my grandfather. Coleman glanced at Daniel. Daniel's jaw tightened. But he nodded. He had to. Saying no in front of 140 people who loved Harold Callahan would have cracked the mask. I stepped up to the microphone. As Daniel and I passed each other, he leaned close. His mouth barely moved. Don't do anything stupid. I looked at him. My voice was low enough for just the two of us. I am not stupid, Daniel. That is the one thing you never understood about me. I turned to face the room. 140 faces. Candles on the windowsills. The pews my grandfather built with his hands. I set the folder on the pulpit. I held the phone where everyone could see it and I began. My grandfather, Harold Callahan, is lying in a hospital bed right now. I found that out 5 days ago. But not from my father. From a nurse who called me at 3 in the morning because she could not stand what she was watching anymore. The whispers stopped. The room went completely still. For 3 days my grandfather cried my name from that bed. He thought I abandoned him. Because my father told him I did not want to come. And he told me that Grandpa did not want visitors. I paused. Let it land. He lied to both of us. He kept us apart while Grandpa was dying. Daniel stepped forward from the side. Nora, you are upset. You do not know what you are. I did not look at him. I raised one hand, palm out. Not aggressive. Just clear. I am not done. I turned back to the room. But my grandfather is not a man who gives up easily. He is a carpenter. He builds things that last. And when he realized what was happening, he prepared. I held up the phone, pressed play, turned the volume all the way up. Daniel's voice rang through that church, bouncing off the walls. Off the pews Harold Callahan had built with his own 2 hands. You are going to sign this paper or I will move you to the cheapest nursing home in this county. The kind of place where nobody visits. The kind of place where you die alone. No one moved. Someone in the back row inhaled sharply. A sound like tearing paper. I played the next recording. Daniel on the phone with a bank. Using Harold's name. Harold's social security number. Requesting a transfer of $4,800. Daniel lunged forward. Turn that off. That is fake. He was delirious. He does not know what. Aunt Carolyn stood up in the 3rd row. Her tissue was gone. Her hands were fists at her sides. Her eyes locked onto Daniel like something had been unlocked inside her that could not be locked again. Daniel. Her voice was steady and terrible. That is your voice. Pastor Coleman placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. Firm. Daniel, I think you should sit down. The candles flickered. The church was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. And I was not finished. Daniel wrenched away from Coleman's hand. His face was red. Not embarrassment red. The red of something cornered. You do not know what you are doing, he said. His voice was louder than he meant it to be. I am his son. I have the right. You have the right to what? Mrs. Sutton stood up from the end of the 4th row. 72 years old. 5'3". Voice like a church bell. You disappeared for 20 years, Daniel. Nora is the one who mowed Harold's lawn every Saturday. Nora is the one who shoveled his driveway. Where were you? Murmurs rippled through the pews. Heads nodding. Pete Garner stood next. 80 years old. Hands like Grandpa's. Carpenter's hands. Harold told me last month that someone took his credit card. I thought the old man was confused. He looked at Daniel. He was not confused, was he? Daniel was scanning the room. Looking for an ally. Looking for one face that still believed him. He did not find it. Sandra tugged his elbow. We need to go now. Daniel turned to leave. Then he saw Connor. Connor was standing at the back of the church near the door. Arms at his sides. He had been there the whole time. His eyes were red. He was not moving toward his father. He was not moving at all. Connor. Daniel's voice cracked. Let's go. Connor did not move. Daniel and Sandra pushed through the side door. It swung shut behind them. Through the window I could see Sandra walking fast across the parking lot, wiping her face. Daniel stood on the steps for a moment. Shoulders dropped. Staring at the ground. Not angry anymore. Empty. I turned back to the room. Thank you for coming tonight, I said quietly. My grandfather deserves to know that this whole town loves him. That is all I wanted to say. And I stepped away from the pulpit. The next half hour was a blur of hands and voices. Mrs. Sutton reached me first. She wrapped her arms around me and held on the way grandmothers hold, firm and purposeful, like she was putting something right. Pete Garner took both my hands in his. His palms were rough as sandpaper. I am sorry, sweetheart. I should have believed Harold when he told me. Aunt Carolyn stood in front of me and could not speak for a long moment. Then I am sorry. He called me and I believed him. I should have called you first. It is okay, Aunt Carolyn. It is not okay. Her voice was fierce. But I am here now. Pastor Coleman pulled me aside near the vestibule. If you need anything from this church, a witness statement, a letter of character, anything at all, you come to me directly. Then people I barely knew. The woman from the bakery. My old math teacher. A man I had never met who said Harold fixed his porch in 2006 and never once charged him. They did not all say the right thing. Some of them did not say anything at all. But they stayed. And staying is enough. Connor was the last one. He walked up after the crowd thinned. We stood in the aisle between the pews Harold built. I am sorry, he said. You do not owe me sorry. You owe yourself a decision about where you stand. He nodded, swallowed hard, looked at the floor. Outside in Annie's car, I called Detective Harmon. 140 people just heard those recordings in a church. A beat of silence. Then I know. I have already gotten 3 calls from people who were there. I leaned my head against the cold window. Annie pulled out of the parking lot. The church got smaller in the mirror, its white walls glowing under the streetlight. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in 5 days the pressure behind my ribs loosened. Just a little. Just enough. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up like this? Have you ever been the one everyone called dramatic, unstable, difficult, while the person doing real damage walked around being called devoted? And if you have dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Sunday morning I drove to Memorial. No security guard outside room 412. No clipboard check. The front desk nurse nodded at me when I signed in. Go right up, Miss Callahan. They had updated the visitor list overnight. I opened the door. Grandpa was thinner than yesterday. His breathing was slower. I could hear the spaces between each inhale getting wider. But when he saw me, something lit up behind his eyes. Not quite a smile. Something deeper. Recognition. Relief. Home. Hey, Grandpa. Nora. He patted the bed beside him. I sat. I told him about the vigil. Kept it simple. The church, the candles, the recordings played out loud. Daniel leaving, the town standing up. I did not embellish. He did not need it. He listened with his eyes closed. When I finished, he asked one question. Carolyn came? She did. She cried. She said she was sorry. He smiled. A ghost of one. She always believes the wrong person first. A pause. But she has a good heart. He reached for my hand. I gave it to him. His fingers folded around mine. No grip left in them. Just presence. You don't need the house, Nora. A house is not 4 walls. But I want you to keep it. He opened his eyes. Because I did not build it for me. I built it for the one who would stay. I did not do this for the house, Grandpa. I know. That is why you deserve it. His eyes drifted shut. I sat with him. The monitor beeped steady and slow. The afternoon sunlight stretched across the floor, reaching toward his bed like a hand outstretched. Peggy came in, checked his vitals, looked at the 2 of us. She did not say a word. She just nodded at me and slipped back out. Some things do not need language. Monday. Detective Harmon called at 9 in the morning. Case is officially open. We are pursuing financial exploitation of the elderly. That is a felony in Ohio. Identity fraud, felony 5. A judge has issued a temporary protective order. Daniel is prohibited from contacting Harold or entering the hospital. The bank has frozen all outgoing transactions on Harold's accounts pending review. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote it all down in my notebook. The way I chart patient notes at Maplewood. Facts, dates, outcomes. $14,000 in unauthorized transfers. Frozen. Flagged for recovery. 2 months of Social Security rerouted. The deposit corrected back to Grandpa's account. Daniel's so-called shared account now part of an active fraud investigation. I checked Facebook. Daniel's Vigil post was still up, but the comments had transformed overnight. Prayer hands were gone. In their place, is it true what Harold's granddaughter said? I was at the Vigil. I heard those recordings. I am sick to my stomach. Derek Thornton should be ashamed of himself. Nobody was calling him a good son anymore. Then Sandra called. I almost did not pick up. Do you have any idea what you have done? Her voice was shaking. Not with grief. With the sound of someone watching their plan collapse brick by brick. We are family, Nora. You do not air family business in public. Sandra. I did not break this family. Daniel did. I just turned on the light. Silence. He lost his job, she said, quieter now. 8 months ago. We are drowning. You do not understand. I understand perfectly. But drowning does not give you the right to pull someone else under. I hung up. My hands were steady. The house was quiet. Grandpa's reading lamp was still on. I left it on. Tuesday afternoon. A knock at the front door. Connor was standing on the porch with a backpack over one shoulder, and a look on his face like a man who just walked out of a building that was already on fire. Mom kicked me out, he said, because I told her I believed you. I looked at him. 22 years old. Red-eyed. Jaw set the same way Grandpa sets his when he has made a decision he will not unmake. He had Daniel's chin. But Harold's eyes. Something I had never noticed before. Come in. We sat at the cherrywood desk. Kyle ran his hand across the surface, feeling the grain. Grandpa made this when I was 12, I told him. He nodded. Looked around the room. The windowsills with the grooves. The oak floor. The photo of my mother on the mantel. This was the house his father had tried to steal. And Connor had never been inside it. I have something else, he said. He pulled a crumpled paper from his backpack. A credit card statement. Dad opened a new card under Grandpa's name 3 months ago. I found the paperwork in his glove box. I did not know what it was until Saturday night. I picked up the phone and called Detective Harmon. Connor leaned back in the chair. He looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from realizing your whole childhood was built on a version of events that was not true. Mom told me to pick a side, he said quietly. I did not pick a side. I picked the truth. I looked at my half-brother. Sitting in my grandfather's house. At the desk my grandfather built. Holding evidence against his own father. Harold would have liked this kid. You hungry? I asked. Starving. I made oatmeal with brown sugar. Grandpa's recipe. Thursday. 6 in the morning. My phone rang. I already knew. Connor drove. He did not ask where. He just grabbed the keys and went. The roads were empty. The sky barely lightening. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing to say that the silence was not already saying. Aunt Carolyn was in the hallway when we arrived. She had driven 2 hours from Columbus in the dark. Been there since midnight. Room 412. Grandpa was still. The oxygen tube was gone. The 4 disconnected. His hands were resting on the blanket. Those carpenter's hands. Thinner than I had ever seen them. But still square at the knuckles. Still shaped by decades of holding things together. His eyes opened when I took his hand. Just barely. Just enough. He looked at me, then at Connor, then at Carolyn. The faintest movement at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. Something older. Something complete. Full house, he whispered. Carolyn took his other hand. Connor stood at the foot of the bed, one hand on the rail. Not moving. Grandpa's eyes stayed on mine. I could feel him letting go. Not all at once. Gently. The way you set something down when you know it is in exactly the right place. The monitor beeped slower. Slower. Then a single long tone. Peggy came in. She looked at the clock. Wrote something on the chart. Then she looked at me and nodded. The same nod she had given me the first night when she opened the door and let me in. I did not scream. I did not fall. I sat in the chair and held his hand and said quietly, I am here, Grandpa. I was always here. Carolyn cried. Connor cried. I cried later out in the hallway on the floor, my back against the wall. Peggy found me there. She sat down next to me without a word. She just sat. And sometimes that is everything. 3 weeks later, I was standing in the doorway of the house Harold Callahan built in 1981. Oak floors, hand-carved windowsills, a porch he leveled 3 times because close enough was not a phrase that belonged in carpentry. It was mine now. Not because I asked for it. Because 2 years ago, when he was healthy and clear-headed, Grandpa sat down with a lawyer and signed a will. Witnessed. Notarized. Airtight. He left the house to me with a single note in the margin, in his handwriting. For Nora, who stayed. Daniel was formally charged last month. Financial exploitation of the elderly. Felony in Ohio. Identity fraud. His arraignment is scheduled. Sandra filed for divorce 3 days after the charges were announced. Not out of conscience. Because she found out Daniel had been lying to her too. About the job, the debt, how much he had already taken. Connor works part-time at the coffee shop on Main. He comes to dinner every Thursday. We sit at the cherrywood desk, which doubles as a dining table for 2. And we eat whatever I have managed to cook between shifts. We do not call each other family yet. But he sat in this house last Thursday and said, "This is the only table where I do not feel like I have to perform." That is close enough for now. Aunt Carolyn comes on Sundays. She brings pie. We sit on the porch and talk about Grandpa, his terrible jokes, his oatmeal obsession, the time he accidentally nailed his own sleeve to a shelf and did not tell anyone for 2 hours. We laugh when we tell it. We cry a little too. And both of those things are right. I still work the night shift at Maplewood. I still walk home at 3 in the morning. I still open the door to sawdust and coffee in quiet. I never spoke to Daniel again. Not out of hatred. Not out of forgiveness. Just silence. The quietest boundary is the one you never have to explain. My grandfather built a house with his hands and protected me with a phone he hid under his pillow. He could not fight with his fists anymore, so he fought with the truth. And he made sure I was the one who heard it. If there is one thing I want you to carry out of this story, it is this. You do not need to scream to be strong. You just need to refuse to look away. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story meant something to you, please leave a comment. I read every single one. And if you have not yet, hit subscribe. I have more stories to tell. There is another one waiting for you in the description right now. I think you are going to want to hear it.